Hello. So I wanted to answer you about your questions about our job with data scientists. And so we are a training organism, and we do provide data scientists, trainers, to train people in companies, such as people in charge of business intelligence. So we do not really work on long-term relationships with our clients. Um, we, um, we suggest data scientists to start as soon as possible as they can, because the market is really needs it. The market really needs a lot of data scientists, and so there is no age to start about with the job. And dealing with competencies, we do suggest, and I do think that autonomous is really important, and also the capability to have a clear view of what you are doing, because when you are working with the data, it's very hard to know or to understand the data unless you use data visualization. And so this job of data scientist is really a matter of autonomous and have a clear view of what you are expecting and looking for when you are working with data. We, as I said previously, we do when we work with our clients, we work for a duration of 2 or 5 days usually. So it's a very short time relationship with them, and luckily, because sometimes it could cost a lot. So the companies with which we are working are companies which are using data, or companies who are looking for data information. For example, you have a lot of companies who have a market who has got maturation, and it's hard for them to go further. It's hard for them to innovate, and so they do need some data to understand a different way to create their market. And what I like to say also is that what has been important in the last years, in the last 10 years, is that very big markets have built some barriers to prevent some new companies to go in the market. So if you take, for example, the car market, it's very hard, maybe it's also impossible to go in the car market and to build some cars. It's too important. And so if you try to go in this market by a different way, using the data, for example, and so it's possible for you to go in the market. So an example that I like to give and to provide is the example of the Google car. So the Google car is not it's not a question of being Google and have the money to go into the market of the car. It's the question of being able to see the data and to see that people are trained every single day to go from the point A to the point B, and that they don't need to drive their own car. So they just need to have a car and to let it go. And so when you want to go in a market, you can use the data. When you want to go through a market, you need some data. And so, of course, a data scientist could work all around the world and work on by remote, but it's very hard for companies to work with data scientists on a remote mode, because they are expensive, and also because most of the time the data is not very well organized. And so even if the presence of the data scientist is not compulsory, and could be also sometimes be done by remote, it's also important for them to see the data scientist, to let him work into the data, which is most of the time protected from being used by remote, and also because when you pay so much for a data scientist, you want him to be in your company. And dealing with the salary, data scientist is not is probably paid more than what he provides, because there is a lack of data scientists, and also because the skills that we need from him are very hard to get. And most of the time you have people in some companies who are said to be data scientists, but actually they are just business intelligence engineers, or, well, I mean, people who are not working on some new languages with new database environments and all that stuff. Here it is. Thank you for this interview, and bye-bye.